Hello and welcome. So I have just started sanding this wall. I still haven't filled in anything around the window because my mind keeps coming up with different ideas. So yeah, like I said, I've just started sanding, and as you can see, it is a mess. I should be doing it outside, but we have had at least some rain almost every day for over a week. It's very humid because it gets up in the 70s and 80s. Sometimes it goes higher, and the dew sets on the ground, and it's just very wet out there. Anyway, it's been a struggle because I wanted to do this outside because of the mess, and it's just not been possible with working and that. I mean, when it would be ideal to do it outside, I'm at work. So I am doing it in my craft room, trying my best not to make a mess, sanding over a garbage can. But a few things I wanted to point out. Now, I don't want these walls perfectly smooth. The premise is this is an old house, and it's got some old plaster, but I don't want it smooth old plaster. I don't want it like it is on this side, and I don't know if you can see that, but there's a lot of lumps and bumps and stuff. And I don't want that, but I don't want it perfectly smooth either. And this up here is getting rather smooth. Now, another thing I wanted to say is I put my coat on thick. Now, if you wanted, if you're doing a regular wall, like you just want a plaster wall in your house, I would try to do more thin coats. I globbed mine on pretty thick, and if you wanted the smoothness of a regular plaster wall, I would definitely say that it would be best to try to do several thinner coats. Maybe you don't want it runny because it's just going to warp if you're using foam core. It's just going to run all over if you make it too runny. But I would go thinner than what I did, and I would just make sure that I was getting each coat nice and smooth, and just do a few thinner coats for that. But that was not what I was going for, so I really didn't have to worry now. All I have to worry about, and I want to caution you on this too, is since this is so thick and it is such a rough surface right now, because I haven't sanded parts of it yet, it does also, it's grabbed onto the gesso really nice, but it also pieces can chip out, okay? So I want to make you aware that when you're sanding, that pieces can chip out if you're not careful. Now, I find that to be the exception and not the rule, but just letting you know it can happen. I am using an emery board. I can't find my sandpaper, but I'm finding that this is just an emery board. It was kind of, brownish on one side, but yeah. I am using this, and it is working for my purpose. If you don't want to use a really heavy grit sandpaper, because it's just going to chew up what you put down, and then you're going to have to do it over. So I am just using the emery board. I don't recommend this. I mean, I would recommend something like maybe 220 grit sandpaper, and it's going to take a lot of sanding. So if you decide to do something like this, be prepared. But as you can see, it is holding on the wall really well. And definitely wear a mask if you're the type like me who, I don't like anything dry on my hands. I think it's because from wearing gloves at work and stuff, my hands are dry, and I don't like the dry feel. But am I wearing gloves? No, I'm not. Definitely wear a mask because this plaster powder is very, very fine. I would suggest not going at it real aggressively unless you do have a pretty thick coat of plaster. Otherwise, I would say, just smooth, and you can do it in circles, you can go back and forth, you can go up and down, and it doesn't really matter. I mean, it doesn't. It does the same thing no matter which way you sand. But right now, I'm going to keep going with this until I get these done. I've left this wall out here kind of really chunky. I will be sanding down the corner. I want it rounded, but I don't want it, I've got like this big, you see that right there? That's got to be taken down, but I've got to be very careful when I'm doing corners. That's another thing. When you are doing an outward corner, if you want it curved, like I wanted this curved right here, this little part, be very careful when you're sanding because it is very easy to take it down too much. And then, like I said, then you have to patch in. Up here in the corner, this corner is not square. If I took my fingernail right now and I just pushed up on this probably would chunk right out of there. I'm not doing that because I'm going to go through it and sand it because I don't want it to take out another part of the wall. These are very sturdy. They really are. I mean, if you hit it with something hard, yeah, it's going to crack. It's going to fall out. But for the most part, this is a very, very sturdy wall. I have done these before, and you shouldn't have any problem with it whatsoever. So those are just a few little pointers that I wanted to throw out here right away. Just because if you've never done it, it can seem really intimidating, I'm sure. And yeah, I just want you to know that just slow persistence is going to get you that finish you want on your wall. And that's about all I've got to say right now. I'm going to go back to sanding, and I will see you soon when the walls are sanded. Bye for now. I think we're going to call this part 8A. I think we're on part 8. We may be on part... No, we're on part 8. Just simply because I did throw those tips in there. If you have... One more tip. If you have any pieces that are like really sticking up, like this piece here, you probably can't see it, but this is like really sticking up. Sand those careful too, because they can chunk out of there and possibly ruin your wall. I was going to go ahead and do this and put it all up as Monday's video, but the reason I've decided to call it 8A is because this is just more tips on doing this. Also, Plaster Paris is not your only choice. I chose to use it. There's a product out there on the market that is similar, and it is called Durham's Rock Hard Water Putty. It also works very well, but it is very hard. So if you choose to use that, you might you might want to put it on thinner because it is very hard. At least it used to be. I haven't used it for years. And you will be doing a lot of sanding. Don't be intimidated by that. It's a great product. It works really good. I'm not getting paid by anybody, but I just want to say that that is another alternative to doing this. And they say once it's that hard that you can't carve it, like if you want to carve rocks, or whatever. I have done that. It does take a lot of doing. You could probably do it better while it's still wet. I would recommend that because I did it after it had dried, and I was using it on a dollhouse foundation, and it set up really hard. So just those little tips, and I'm going to go ahead and put this video up as soon as I get done talking to you. If you try it, I wish you the best of luck. It's not an exact science. It's something you kind of got to work with, and I would definitely suggest using it on a scrap piece. If you're doing foam board, use it on a scrap piece first. If you're going to use it in your dollhouse and you want those, just what looks like the old plaster walls, get a piece of MDF or even a nice plywood, not the really cheap plywood, and try it on that first. You could probably put Mod Podge down as your base. I use gesso. Just remember, especially if working with like foam board, if you put it on one side, you're going to end up having to put it on the other side, or you could have some slight warping. And that's what happened here. I did not put it on the outside of this wall. I did go back and do it with the other wall, but I did not put it on the outside of this wall. It is best to coat both sides, I feel. I don't know. That's just my personal experience with it. You may have a different experience with it. You would not have to lay anything down underneath of your plaster or whatever you're using. However, given the fact that foam board has like a poster board outer surface, there is every chance in the world that it is going to dampen that paper surface, and then you're going to have ripples and lumps and bumps. So that is about as in-depth as I can get with the tips. If you have any questions, please ask. And I want to thank those who've been commenting. I wish more people would. I really enjoy the comments that I'm getting. So please keep the comments coming. If you have any questions on this, please ask. I will try to answer them to the best of my ability. And I will see you on Monday when I have these walls sanded. We're ready to apply the paint. And I will have by then figured out exactly what I'm going to do with this window. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I will see you Monday. Bye-bye.